obviously there's stuff that they don't understand or find funny, which is things about Pakistan, because there's no context for them. It's one of the funny things where in Pakistan, we think the whole world is, aware of us and out to get us and focused on us and obsessed with us. Nobody cares. No one cares about Pakistan. Most people couldn't point out on a map. If they know of Pakistan, it's because they think we're India, and that is it. So all those conspiracy theories about the CIA is after us and Mossad is after us and everything, it's nonsense. No one's after Pakistan because Pakistan doesn't matter. And that's a good thing. We don't want to matter. We shouldn't matter. The only time we do matter is when something bad happens. So the less people know about us, the better. And I used to go and talk about, I talk about my experiences in Pakistan, and they wouldn't relate to people. And I realized very quickly that there is an experience I can talk about that would relate to Australian audiences, which is immigration. Australia is a very migrant, immigrant-heavy country. Many people here are immigrants. I think 53% of the population is born overseas, and 70-something% of the population has at least one parent born overseas. So it's a very migrant country, and I talked about that experience. I talked about what it's like to not be welcomed, to experience racism for the first time, to have those experiences, but I'd make them funny. And it worked. It connected with people, and people, reacted really well. And for me, my comedy is always, it's very important for me that my comedy be honest. It's not about just dumb jokes. It's about, what I'm experiencing, what I'm seeing, what I'm going through. And so I tried to put that out there, and people reacted well, and very quickly ended up becoming a thing where I got a headline within 6 months, which, you get to do 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And doing that, I kind of built up an hour show, which became an award-winning show. And I was very happy and lucky that people connected. But since then, I've been doing comedy now in Australia since 2012, probably 3-4 times a week, every week, sometimes twice a day. And hour-long shows, 7-minute shows, it doesn't matter. The things I keep talking about are the things happening around me, the things I see, the things I observe, and audiences will connect as long as it's funny and as long as it's relevant in some way to their life. So, for example, when I talk about racism, when I talk about politics, when I talk about refugee rights and all these things, even if they disagree with me, if I talk about them in a funny way, they're willing to listen to me. And I found that really, really helpful.
Okay, so there were people who welcomed you, but you would have had a lot of trolling and a lot of people who didn't as well. So for young people who maybe want to do this or feel the need to do this, how do you deal with opposition? How do you deal with trolling? How do you deal with people who are like rejecting you?
I mean, I had that in Pakistan as well, right? Like you do comedy in Pakistan and some people think you're funny and some people are like, oh, he's terrible, he's not funny. I have different perspectives on different things and political ideas in my comedy, and people would agree, disagree. I think one of the things we're now realizing in the 21st century is that trolling is a part of everyone's life. Everyone gets trolled. If you have even the slightest public persona, you will get trolled, and people will agree with you and disagree with you and say horrific things and kind things. One of the dumbest things they try hitting you with when you're a comedian is they will say, oh, you're not funny. Oh, haha, quote unquote comedian. Not realizing that literally the first thing a comedian overcomes in doing comedy is the idea that they're not funny. So, if a troll tells me I'm not funny, I don't care because I go and make people laugh that evening again. But beyond that, you have to understand that when you put your work out there, it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter what your work is, it will be attacked. One of my favorite examples I always like giving people is, I don't know if everyone remembers Sami Shah with the song Eye to Eye. And he had another song, I think Angel. And everyone laughed at him. When Sami Shah came out with his songs, everyone laughed at him, everyone mocked him and they ridiculed him and they made fun of him and they're like, what a ridiculous man. And I kind of respect him a lot because my thing is, it's still a man who was like, you know what, I want to sing, I want to make a music video. And he put his money where his mouth is. Most of us spend our lives not pursuing our passions and not challenging ourselves. We don't put our art out there. You don't know if your art is good or bad. That is purely subjective. Everyone hopes that their art is good and puts the most they can to their art. And for all those people who troll Sami Shah, he's still better than every single one of them because he put his art out there. versus everyone else who just wants to sit back and criticize. So when people troll me or criticize me or attack me, I have to remember that, look, part of it is, if there are legitimate criticisms, and I have to keep that in mind, that my work is not perfect. There's always going to be improvements, and I try to make those anyway. But part of it is also, I know what I'm doing. I'm putting myself out there in a very naked way, in a very honest way, and it's not going to connect with everyone. And some people will react badly, but I'd much rather do this than not do it, because I feel like to not do it and just sit back and criticize, that's easy. That's anyone can do that. And there's nothing interesting about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sami. Over to you, Fariha.
Thank you. And I agree, what we call it, what I think, they are kitchen critiques, right? All over, whatever you do. So kitchen critiques is nothing. It's the easiest job in the world. You sit back and say, oh, you could have done this better. So the question is, tell us about your book, A Beginner's Guide to Pakistan. What is it about? How was it received?
So, Beginner's Guide to Pakistan isn't the book. It's a documentary series for BBC. So what happened was, I got really lucky in that there's a producer in England named Ed Morrish, and he used to work for BBC Radio 4. And Ed Morrish creates really good BBC comedy stuff, really good comedy stuff for radio. And he just randomly found me online. I don't know how he did it. He just randomly found comedian plus Pakistan on Google, and I came up. And he got in touch, and he watched some of my comedy, and he found it funny, and he got in touch with me, and he said, hey, I like your stuff, but let's work together. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was still in Pakistan at the time. This would have been like 2010 probably when he got in touch with me. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to work together. And we just kept in touch. We kept bouncing ideas off each other and things, and nothing was ever coming up properly, quiz shows and game shows and all these things. And then finally, I think about 2013 or so, when I moved to Australia, he came back with the idea, and he said, let's do a series where we teach people about Pakistan. And it can be, and maybe if it works out, we can do a whole, he wanted to do a whole series, Beginner's Guide to India, Beginner's Guide to other countries. Mine was going to be the first one. And he's like, it'll be 2 half-hour episodes, and you'll have to basically teach British audiences about Pakistan, the entire history of the country, the political history of the country, the cultural history of the country, everything. And I love writing and I love history. And so those kind of combine those two things for me. So basically, I just spent several months writing it out and sending it back to him. Then he'd give me notes and I'd send it back to him again, and things like that. We went back and forth until finally he liked the scripts. He flew me to London. I got to perform in, I think, Bradford or Liverpool, I can't remember which, where I performed in front of a live audience. And just read out the scripts, and we recorded it. And the whole thing went to air. And episode 1 is literally the history of Pakistan, the complete political history of Pakistan, but told using comedy and using my own life story as well, and kind of autobiographical and everything. And then episode 2 was the cultural history, the music, the art, the fashion, all of those things. And it was hugely well received. It was like, I was shocked, but I got hundreds and thousands of emails and messages from people in England who loved it. It got really well reviewed as well. And it became another series. He ended up using, I think, Aditi Mittal, who is an Indian comedian. She did episode 2, which was Beginner's Guide to India. And then I think they're still going on. But ours was the first one. And it was just this thing where, we study Pak history and we study all these things, but we never use comedy to explain it all. And comedy is such an important tool to analyze society, to dissect, political structures and things. And I got to do that. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I could do it now. I think I'm so far away from Pakistan now, and it's been so long since I've been there. I think it was the right time for me to have done it when I did it.